Does it work? Let's find out. So I had a customer come in, he buys a lot of stuff from me and whatnot, and today I did a deal with him. I spent almost $1,000 on some slab coins that I'm not gonna feature. But then he says, you have an interest in this? What's that? He goes, well, I think you of all people would know what it is. It's an opium pipe. Oh, yeah, I want it. So let's talk about the opium trade. I have this pipe here in my hand, and it's something that's interesting, and we should definitely talk about. Its impacts in history are enormous, and at the end of this, we'll test it out, because fuck it. Opium trade, where does opium come from? How long have people been using it? Actually, long time. Ancient civilizations, such as the Sumerians and the Egyptians, were using it for everything from medicinal purposes to rituals. In fact, the Sumerians called it the joy plant. The Sumerians in Mesopotamia cultivated the opium plant around 3400 BC. Somewhere around there, and again, it was used everything from rituals to pain alleviation to, making you happy because they didn't know about the consequences. In the ancient world in Greece and in Rome, they still use it. In fact, Hippocrates, the famous Greek physician who we get the term the Hippocratic Oath from, recognized and documented its medicinal properties. Also, Alexander the Great spread its use as he expanded territories. I guess he was an opium smoker. In the medieval period, again, its properties were recognized. It was more studied. Islam came after it a little bit because it was a recreational plant, a drug, and, they have kind of a strict religion, shall we say. Also in the Middle East, in Europe, apothecaries were, if you wanted to go get some opium, you go see an apothecary. They generally had some on hand. The medieval European physician Paracelsus, if I'm saying his name right, developed a substance. It's a version of opium. It's called laudanum, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard. In fact, there's a great Dan Cummins time suck joke about how, the only medicine back in the Civil War was whiskey, laudanum, saw. This became a painkiller in medieval Europe, laudanum. Now, where the problem of the evils of opium comes into play is what happened in China. The Silk Road introduced opium into China, and seeing this as akin to how American settlers were giving natives alcohol, same thing was going on here. They were flooding opium into China, creating a drug problem. Mainly the British East India Company, taking opium from India and flooding it into China. This led to the Opium Wars. It led to two very unfair treaties being signed. China lost these wars, and it really fucked them up for a while. You could say the effects of that are still being felt today. It also created a lot of international ports in China because China just became subjugated as a result of this. Now, part of why opium got so popular at the time was the introduction of pipe smoking tobacco. Pipe like this. This came about the 1700s. Before that, opium was taken orally. This allowed, you don't just drop it in and you torch it. You heat it up first over time. You heat it up, and in a minute here, I'm going to show you why I'm going to use it. But it's a little bit different than just lighting a corncob pipe. After the Opium Wars, opium use just completely took off. It spread all throughout Europe into the Americas. This is where we get the idea of a modern day opium den. Funny story, the first time I ever went out to New York City, one of my friends was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, can you find us an opium den? And he's like, oh, you boob. This is not 1900. The International Opium Convention of 1912, they recognized all the evils that were coming out of this, and it really shattered the social acceptance of just using opium, because fuck it. Now, as far as the evils of opium into the modern day trade goes, well, one, opium, you think of opium, you probably don't think opium, you probably think heroin. Created a lot of problems with heroin, which fuels into the HIV/AIDS crisis because the sharing of needles for drug use. Opium also is a black market substance, so it has the ability to really fuck up economies. It'll disrupt small, fragile economies very easily. It leads to political corruption. It leads to regional conflict. A lot of terrorist organizations or terrorist groups will grow opium as a way to generate money for their illicit activities. Militants, drug traffickers, you name it. There's a lot of evil tied to the opium trade. Most of what we're getting now for the opium trade is coming out of what is known as the Golden Triangle in Asia. There's also the Golden Crescent in the Middle East, which includes areas like Afghanistan and Pakistan. And the distribution networks are vast, complex. I mean, it's still a drug. If you want to go find some, you can. No comment here. Let's just say I'm talking about a fictitious character. This fictitious character is named Evan, and if Evan wanted to find some, maybe, I've never tried, said this fictitious character. But it sure would not be easy. This is kind of an obscure drug. We don't see it a whole lot in the United States. It's just not what it was. And the pharmaceutical industry, has created things like Vicodin and Percocet, which is basically just opium in a pill with more addiction and more crazy and more lab work behind it. Does it work? Let's find out. Nope, nothing. No. Can't say we didn't try though. So now I'm gonna sell this and pretend like I didn't just do that. As far as the legality of an item like this goes, this is fine for me to sell. And even if there was some residue I just got off of there, it's such a negligible small amount, it's fine. And I mean, I could just say I scripted this whole thing if this ever comes into a courtroom setting. I do feel a little funny, I'm not gonna lie.
All right, I have a variety of things. A couple of them are rather good. I sat down this morning, figured out what I want for everything, looked them all up.
Okay, well,
Yep.
tell me what you want.
Oh, grand total? I got individual. Let's see. One's in a slab that's not a PCGS or an NGC, but it's a Toner Morgan.
Okay. That was an ICG.
Yeah.
Fuck these.
And I know. And then the other one is a CC Morgan in there somewhere.
Yeah, the Morgan I see here.
Okay.
Tell me what you want.
Okay, let me add them up real quick. Unless you want to go through them one at a time.
No.
Okay. I got 1,051.
That'll probably work.
Everything is below Red Book price.
How about 1,000 flat?
Okay, that'll work.
Whoop, there it is.
Yep.
Well, this is cool. I didn't film the deal, but this is 9 of the 10 of the Queen's Heraldic Beasts, the series. We've seen on here before. I've talked about it before, but not. Well, I haven't had the whole thing in front of me, and I haven't talked about what all the different beasts are. So let's kind of go through all these and check it out. I looked it up just to see about the mythology and what all this is, and it's actually pretty interesting. Now, I've said this before. I hate the royals. I hate the royal family. I think it's so stupid. It's at the end of the day, it's simply un-American, the royals. So that's my cop-out answer, but I think they're a toxic, terrible family of monsters. Anyway, the Queen's Beast refers to the 10 heraldic statues that represent the genealogy of Queen Elizabeth II. These creatures are the mythology of this queen coming together through these 10 different mythical animals and the spiritualism / symbolism that they bring into one inbred cousin fucking body. So these are the 10 beasts associated with royal ancestry, and they are the Lion of England, the Griffin of Edward III, the Red Dragon of Wales, the Unicorn of Scotland, the White Horse of Hanover, the White Greyhound of Richmond, the Yale of Beaufort, the Black Bull of Clarence, the Falcon of the Plantagenets, and then finally the one that I'm missing from this series, the Seahorse of Hanover. Over the years, these beasts have become iconic in British culture and symbolism. The original statues from the Queen's coronation in 1953 were actually temporary. They were made out of plaster. Now the series is sold out. They're 2 ounces. They made them in silver, gold, and platinum, and they command a pretty high premium. I paid $30 an ounce, so I paid about a third over spot to get those, and I'm selling them at $40 an ounce, and that's actually under the market for what they're going for right now. So there's definitely a huge premium for them. The symbolism itself, I think, is very cool. It's just, you know, fuck the royals. But I hope you learned something. Now, each of these symbols, each of these animals, there's some like symbolism behind it. Like the Lion of England is supposed to represent strength and courage. I'm not gonna get into it, it's stupid, but sure, now you know. Heck of a way to start the Monday, ladies Rolex. I never see them. My watch guy says because it's vintage, it's hard to sell. It's more just about the metal price. I'd be a buyer of this at $900.
Let me go home and think.
Sure, it's just the gold value here. If somebody gives you a higher offer, get it on paper and bring it to me. I'll try and beat it.
Okay.
I mean, he said vintage watches like that are just tough to sell. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you,
Yeah, let me give you my card quick for you.
Okay.
The side door. And then make sure you don't cut yourself.
Oh, you got something in the car? I don't see anything there that I can buy. You got some furniture.
You
There's
check the spots in the bags.
yeah. The Founders in Minnesota thing is interesting, but the frame's broken. If you want, I'll take it off your hands for $2.
Give me a little more too.
I'll give you 5.
That's fine.
I'll give you 5. Okay. Well, we got we did some business today here.
Thanks, Evan.
Thank you. Good to see you. So this is what I bought from him. So the first lady had a Rolex from '97. She had an appraisal slip for like $3,000. I unfortunately ran out of room in this camera battery, so I didn't use my B cam. Which is too bad because that would have been cool to see that appraisal slip. I think she thought I was trying to scam her, and I actually offered her more than my guy suggested. And my guy suggested I offered her slightly under melt. I offered her full melt. So that lady thought I was trying to scam her. She left. I probably won't see her again. Yeah,